where 12 years of coaching championships meets real-world leadership. Coach Clark broke through at the highest levels. Now he's bringing you the playbook. Every week, real leaders, real wins. Real strategies you can use Monday morning. If you're done with theory and ready for results, this is your show. You in? Let's go!
All right, and welcome everybody to a live version of Ask the Coach. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, aka The Coach. And so, got a special topic that I want to talk to you guys about. And so, for those of you who are leaders, who shaped the leaders that you admire? Who are you shaping right now? And so, in this live stream, we're going to break down the power of lineage and mentorship through the coaching trees of the likes of Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, Paul Brown, and others, and what their successes teach us about leadership, legacy, and developing people. Now, this is not football trivia, okay? It's about why great leaders don't just win, they reproduce. We'll talk about who to look for in a mentor, the difference between controlment and investment, and how your legacy is ultimately measured by the people that you develop. And so, if you're serious about growth, and hold up that why. And so tonight, I want to show you why mentorship isn't optional for leaders and how people you develop ultimately will tell your story. So drop a yes now that if you've ever had a mentor that changed your life, changed your career. I want to hear your stories. And so while you're dropping that yes in for the mentor that has helped you change your life, again, just want to remind you, so because recovering football, that we're going to have 4 quarters that we go to, or instead of calling them 4 core points. And so we're going to be talking about legacy, how that equals multiplication, how everyone needs a mentor, investment versus control, and lineage, authority, and responsibility. So make sure you're dropping that yes in there if you've had a mentor that helped change your life. And so our first point that I'm going to talk about is how legacy is multiplication. Legacy is multiplication. And so legacy isn't about what you win, okay? It's about who do you pour into and what do they accomplish, okay? Your legacy is ultimately lived through the people that are around you, all right? It's left through those people that are around you. And so I told you we're going to be talking about football coaches because everybody loves football. And the most prominent guy that we can think of current history is Nick Saban. I mean, if you go and you look that right at about half. So it's about 42% of coaches that were in the college football playoff champion this year. So in 2026, the college football playoffs, say 5 of the 12. So that's 42%. They were Nick Saban guys. And then if you go down to it, 4 of 4 in the national champion or the semifinals, which meant the 2 coaches that are in the final game are Nick Saban coaches. And so that actually gives him now, his assistants now have 4 national championships that they've won outside of him. So Nick Saban himself has won 7. That gives him the most of any college football coach. And so that where his other 4 come from, Kirby Smart has 2, Jimbo Fisher has 1, and then Curt Cignetti, has 1 that they just won. So that's 11 total championships coming from his lineage. And they're all still coaching. And so this means that his lineage, that it's going to keep growing. And there's still several that are still out there. I mean, Lane Kiffin just that is back at not back is at LSU, and so that's gonna again that's gonna help determine some of those things to see how successful that is. But how we take this into business, how do we apply this into our leadership? Is are you hoarding knowledge or are you distributing it? You know, like again, your greatest accomplishment is who you invest in. It's not the games that you win. Saban could have easily said, "Hey, I got 7 rings. I'm the greatest of all time. Good luck to everybody else." But that's not what he did. I was literally just watching before I got started on this from the Pat McAfee show. He was talking about how he coached his coaches and how he saw that as his job instead of going and finding, because he could have easily went and said, all right, hey, player A, you messed up and did this. But no, he would go, hey, coach, did you see that your player did? We can't have that. And so he was giving in that moment an opportunity for that coach to develop as a coach. But then it gets passed on and distributed on from there. And so if your business or organization or team that doesn't or can't thrive without you, that you haven't built anything sustainable. Your championships end when you stop coaching, but your legacy lives on. So invest in those leaders. And so think about this. If you walked away from your role today, those of you who are leaders on here, on the call, if you walked away from your role today, would the people you've led keep winning? And be honest with yourself. Would they keep winning? Would the people that you have taught keep winning? The people that were under you. And so when you're gone, will they accomplish more than you? And so legacy, it's multiplication. That's quarter number 1. Moving on to number 2. It's everyone needs a mentor. And so you cannot give what you haven't received, okay? And this is important because, I'll say I often have my Coach Clark that drink here as I'm going that with water, and right now it's full of water. So if I were to go get an empty container and pour it in there, I could pour that because I have it. But if I don't have an empty cup right here by me, but if I were to take one, I can't give you anything if that cup is empty. Okay. And so when we look at coaching trees and coaching realities, that you have to look, where do people come from? Okay. Now, Saban came from Belichick, right? Everybody knows that was kind of the biggest influence on Nick Saban is his work with Bill Belichick when they were with the Cleveland Browns. They're still great friends to this day. Well, the Belichick came from Bill Parcells, who ultimately came from Tom Landry, who ultimately came from Paul Brown, the father of modern day football. If you want to go watch a great documentary or it's a quick 10-minute watch that Peyton Manning does a thing on ESPN about the Browns and how Paul Brown revolutionized the game of football. But when it comes through that, when you look at that coaching lineage, everybody today that's still coaching at some point or another is touched by Paul Brown, that they've come through some sort of his coaching lineage. And then you go and you look at who all is Saban that impacting and touching. Coaches right now, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, Mario Cristobal, Kurt Signetti, Lane Kiffin, Will Muschamp. You could really, if you want to start going down the Saban lineage, you can really go down the Saban lineage of coaches that are out here from under him. Okay. And so it's important to know that even the greatest of coaches had somebody pour into them first. So you have to get something from somebody else before you can give it. You can't give what you don't have. Now, when you look at some other coaches that have a little bit smaller of a tree and great coaches, okay? Bear Bryant, arguably one of the most successful coaches to ever have coached. Tom Landry, again, a legend in his own right. I've I've read his book, and it's a phenomenal book. But when you look at their coaching tree, it's relatively small. They had a very few small branches on it. Okay, um, and the reason being, it's not because they failed; they just built it around themselves. They became the masters. Um, I'll use the Belichick in here as well. That, that Saban comes from the Belichick tree. And so his is real thin because he wasn't investing in those around him. Say that, and again, Belichick, one of my favorite coaches, because of how intense he is about the game, how ingrained he is in the game, and how much he actually knows. Like if you're trying to learn from somebody that knows more about small details, Bill Belichick's your man. But when you look at it, that Bill Walsh and Nick Saban, who have one of the largest trees, they learn from masters and then they produce dynasties through others. So you can't skip this receiving phase. You cannot skip that receiving phase and expect to give well. And so, something I want you to think about, who's mentoring you now? Who's the person that's pouring into you? You know, you hear me say it all the time, leaders are learners. And you have to find somebody that you can learn under. Okay. So if you currently have a mentor, then drop their name in the comments. Let them know, shout them out. Because oftentimes your mentor is an unsung hero. They're often somebody that's not widely praised. That you would be surprised. They shout them out. And if you don't have one, they just type in need one. Or just give it a quick thumbs up. And so if you're not being mentored by somebody right now, you are leaving your team short. Okay. You're limiting the people you're trying to lead. You need to find you some mentor, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your organization, it might be outside source, but you need someone who is your mentor. So, point number 3, investment versus control. And so this is the Belichick and Saban contrast. And both, I'll just start with Belichick. He's won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. That puts him in the greatest of all time conversation as far as NFL coaches are going. His coaching tree, it struggled to reproduce success independently. If you go through and you look, Eric Mangini, Romeo Crennel, Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia, all struggled that as head coach. Excellent assistant coaches, and there's nothing wrong with that. Excellent. And then he does have others, Nick Saban, that got one that's about to play in the Super Bowl right now this year, on February 8th, and Mike Vrabel, sorry. The other 2 that had success, Brian Flores and Bill O'Brien. Good careers. They never really made it. And the reason is control over investment. Belichick's system works because he runs it and he knows it. That's why it's successful. He doesn't empower others to do it. He's the knowledge. He's the one that has everything there. Now, let's look at Nick Saban on the other hand. He's going to give his assistants autonomy. He's going to give them real responsibilities and credit. He trusts them to run his unit. Or their unit. Each person is trusted to run their unit. But guess what? He's going to be watching. He's going to be coaching. Like I said, he's going to coach the coaches. All right. So if you're with that, you want somebody that's going to develop leaders, not employees. Remember, 5 of 12 And then when we got to the semifinals, 4 of 4, they were his guys. And if you want to go even around prior to that, if you want to go that to the that where there were 8 left, he had 5 left in there. So I mean, you want to talk about somebody that's taught and passed on how to do it. Like Nick Saban has done that. And the truth is that you as a leader can do the same thing. You can do the same thing that by mentoring and building and investing in your teams. That make sure that you're building independent leaders. One that I often talk about that I would do is before making a decision that I would bring whoever I was working with in and say, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" And I'd get my mentee to tell me, "Well, I think you should do this." And I go, "Cool, that's what we're going to do." And it was something that I learned from one of my mentors. That was what Sid Edwards did with me. He was the one that took me and said, "All right, coach, let's make some decisions together." And so you got to make sure that you're doing the same thing there in business. Because if your people can't succeed without you, you've controlled them, not developed them. And again, your legacy that goes on past you. That uncomfortable truth. If no one is better because of your leadership, you hadn't built that legacy. You built a resume. And so, real talk, those of you leaders on here, are you a micromanager or a mentor? And really sit here and think about it. Are you a micromanager or a mentor? Say drop, control, or invest in the comments below based on how you operate. No judgment. So if you're a micromanager, control. If you're a mentor, invest. And I'll tell you, because if you're looking at it, are you building that Belichick tree? It's wins for you, losses for them. Or Saban's tree, where everyone wins. And this is what they want to do ultimately as the leader. You want to create a legacy that which goes on beyond you. Then point number 4, fourth quarter. They rounding it out, bringing it home. That your lineage establishes identity, purpose, and authority. Okay. And so I'm going to go back to where it all started. That when you go back and you look in the Bible, and especially I'm going to start with Matthew 1 and Luke 3, in Jesus's genealogy, it wasn't filler. It was to provide that he was the Messiah. His legacy, his lineage proved credibility. It was an authority. It was calling. And so as you're going through and working through your own lineage, and as you're working on having that mentor, you're not carrying just your name. You're carrying the names of those who've invested in you. You're carrying all of that through. And not just your parents' name, but those who are investing in you. That when Kirby Smart took that job in Georgia, he didn't just bring his resume. He brought Saban's credibility. Your mentor is, whenever you go out to that next level, your mentor is putting their credibility on you. That they're throwing it out there for you. And so you've got to make sure that your name means something. So when somebody says he's a Saban guy, that hey, this means it's this guy. They bring discipline. They bring preparation, excellence. They're going to be bringing championships because they're around it. Now, we talked about it before. Success breeds success, but really systems breed that success and that winning mentality. It's a mindset that you have to have that when you go through and do this. And so you as a leader, who you learn from matters. It shapes how people see you. Your reputation is on the line. Your mentor's reputation is on the line when they become somebody of authority. When you move into that leadership role, their reputation is online. And you have the responsibility to honor that lineage. If you succeed, you validate your mentor. If you fail, you reflect poorly on them. And so think about that. Am I honoring my lineage right now? Am I building a lineage worth honoring? Hey, because ultimately, the people you lead are asking three things every time. Do you like me? Uh, um, can you help me? And can I trust you? Do you like me? Can you help me? And can I trust you? It's up to you to be able to deliver that. But you need somebody to help you get there. And so you may be thinking, and this is where we're going to go into overtime right here. You might be thinking, well, Aaron, you talked about these. What do I look for in a mentor? And I'm glad you asked that. And so, oftentimes, most people pick the wrong mentor. This is very important, but most people pick the wrong mentor. They chase the titles, fame, or availability instead of a fit. So, the first thing you want to look for is, are they somewhere you want to be? Now, you're looking for somebody that's anywhere from 5 to 10 years ahead of you, not 50. Somebody's that's right around the corner, that's right where you're at. Um, one, one of mine, obviously my father, a great man, great mentor. I'm super grateful for the leadership that he's provided me throughout my life. That another one that's newer in the role for me is Joey, and Joey DuPont. That he's going to be on the episode that gets releases tomorrow morning. A phenomenal man, phenomenal entrepreneur. But he's a great mentor for me. Now, when you look at, and I'm just going to stay on Nick Saban too. Hey, he learned from Belichick. When Belichick became a first-year head coach, that was when they started working together. Hey, he wasn't going and trying to get straight to a Paul Brown or a Bill Walsh. He went and they learned together. That Belichick had learned from Parcells, and so Belichick became the head coach of the Browns, and he brought in Nick Saban. Belichick knew exactly where Saban was because just the previous year, Belichick was the defensive coordinator. And so he was able to learn and mentor through that, okay? Now, if you try to go to somebody who's too far ahead of you, they can't relate to your current problems because it's so far back. They're so far removed. So if you're trying to go and you want starting out, and let's say you're at a Fortune 500 company and you try to go to the CEO, they aren't going to remember what you're learning right now as an entry level manager. They're just not. They're going to have to think through that. But if you look at that middle manager, they remember exactly what you went through. They're a great person to learn from. And it can't be somebody who's at your own level because they can't show you the next step. Second thing you want to look for. So we talked about they are where you want to be. Second thing we want to talk about is that their tree produces fruit, not just their own success. So Belichick had 6 Super Bowls or 6 Super Bowl wins, mostly a struggling coaching tree outside of his system. Saban, 7 championships, 4 more for his assistants, and they're counting because people are expecting those to be and continue to go on. And so you're looking for, do their former mentees succeed without them? And can they explain why they do what they do? Or do they just do what they do? 3, they challenge you, not just encourage you. They challenge you. You know, a mentor's job is not to make you feel good, it's to make you feel better. And so they're going to call you out whenever you do something wrong. They're not just going to oh, well, hey, I hope maybe, no, they're going to call you out. Hey, that wasn't right. You should have done this. You've got to fix that. I think we've all seen the videos. That's Saban talking about, why is your player's shirt tail untucked? Why are you allowing that to happen? He's calling him out because his job is to coach the coaches. And so it's very crucial. Now, there's got to be the balance, okay? If there's encouragement without challenge, they're just a cheerleader. But if there's challenge without courage or encouragement, they're just a critic. So you need a balance of both. You need them because they're going to give you that attaboy, that little pick me up, but they're not just going to be just like, woohoo, that all the time. That they're going to call you out whenever you do wrong. The fourth, that they give you access and accountability. So that third one could have gone together. And access in real time. That they're not somebody that you have to schedule and say, maybe I could possibly join with them in, maybe 14 weeks from now we can meet up. Oftentimes, I can reach mine at just a moment's notice. And yours should be the same way. When I think about the young men and women and now grown men and women that if they call my phone, I'm answering. If I can't answer, I'm calling them back within the hour, or I'm shooting some sort of text that says, hey, I will call you right back. And that's something that you have to be able to do and look for. Do they give you the time of day? And if they don't, it's okay. They're just not the one. And then the last thing to look for, they want you to ask them. A great mentor wants you to be better than them. They want to see you have more success than they do. And I think back to whenever Kirby Smart won his first national championship. Nick Saban was right there, man. He was congratulating him. Like, great job, Kirby. I'm so proud of him. I'm going to beat you next year, but I'm proud of you. And then Kirby won it again the next year. But that's what they want. Bill Walsh would personally call his coaches that he worked with whenever they won a Super Bowl. He wanted them to know that he was excited for them. That because ultimately, that it's not about you when you're mentoring somebody. It's about the person you're mentoring. And so your job is to help them to grow and become what they can. And you don't need to bring your ego involved. Leave your ego at the door. So if they're wanting to talk more about like, hey, look at me, y'all seriously, look at me, I'm the greatest alive. You should be honored to be in my presence. They're probably not a good mentor. They're here literally for ego. And so here's the truth I want to leave you with. Every great coach that we talked about had two things in common. Someone poured into them, and they poured into others. Remember, championships fade. The titles expire, positions change, but people carry what you give them for a lifetime. So if no one becomes better because of your leadership, you didn't leave a legacy. You left a resume. So ask yourself these two questions and answer them honestly. Who's mentoring me right now? And who am I intentionally developing? Who are you getting to create and leave your legacy right now? And if you need a mentor, DM me. Send me a message or email me, aaron@coachaclark.com. And let's figure out your next step. Let's figure out, how do we help you? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm the best one for you because I may not be the right person for you. But I want to help you find the right person because everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs somebody that's going to help push them in that right direction. And then on that second one, the person that you said, hey, who do I want to invest in? And start pouring into, reach out to them right now. Hey, shoot them a text right now and set up a meeting for this week. Don't wait. 42% of the 2026 college football playoff field came from one man's investment. That's not luck. It's intentional mentorship. It's intentional lineage. And so your legacy is being written right now, not by what you accomplish, but what you develop. And so if this hits you, share this stream. Tag someone who needs to hear it. And if you got value, subscribe and follow. Hey, follow me on the Clark Connection podcast, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, LinkedIn. Connect with me because we're building leaders who build leaders. Appreciate you guys hopping on. I'll catch you on the next episode.